Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering that 5% of the money in your bank account had disappeared overnight. No warning, no notification, just gone. People would panic. There would be outrage, lawsuits, and nonstop headlines. But here's the surprising part. Something very similar happens every year, and most people never notice it. It's called the invisible tax. You won't find it on your paycheck, and the IRS doesn't send you a bill for it, yet it quietly reduces the value of your money every single day. Think about this. If someone stole $20 from your wallet, you'd notice immediately. But if your $20 slowly lost the ability to buy what it used to, you probably wouldn't notice until months or even years later. That's exactly how the invisible tax works. It doesn't take your money away. It reduces what your money can actually buy. Imagine two friends, Jake and Sarah. They both receive $10,000. Jake hides his money in a box under his bed, believing it's the safest place to keep it. Sarah also saves her money, but she spends time learning how money really works. 10 years later, Jake opens the box. Every dollar is still there. Nothing was stolen. But when he goes shopping, he realizes that the same $10,000 buys far less than it did 10 years ago. Homes are more expensive, groceries cost more, gas costs more, even a simple cup of coffee costs more. Jake didn't lose dollars. He lost purchasing power, and that's one of the most important ideas in personal finance. Wealth isn't just about how much money you have, it's about what that money can buy. Imagine holding an ice cube in your hand. For a few seconds, it looks exactly the same, but leave it on the table long enough, and it slowly melts away. Money often works the same way. The change is so gradual that you barely notice it, until one day, everything suddenly feels expensive. Most people assume prices rise simply because companies become greedy. While that can happen in some cases, it's only a small part of the story. Imagine a concert with just 100 tickets, but 1,000 people want to attend. Since there aren't enough seats for everyone, people start offering more money. The tickets become more expensive, even though nothing about the concert has changed. The same thing happens throughout the economy. When more money is competing for the same amount of goods and services, prices usually rise. Economists call this inflation. A small amount of inflation is considered normal in a healthy economy. But when prices rise faster than your income, your money quietly loses its buying power. Your paycheck may stay the same or even increase. But if everything you need becomes even more expensive, you're actually falling behind. That's why so many people say, I'm earning more than ever, but I still can't get ahead. This is why inflation is often called the invisible tax. No one reaches into your wallet. No one takes money from your bank account. Instead, your dollars slowly lose their power without changing their number. The money is still there. It just doesn't work as hard as it used to. But that raises an important question. If inflation slowly makes everyone's money less valuable, why doesn't the government simply stop it? The answer might completely change the way you understand money. The reason governments don't completely eliminate inflation is surprisingly simple. Imagine if everything became cheaper every year. If you knew a new car would cost less next year, would you buy it today? Probably not. Now imagine millions of people making that same decision. Businesses would sell fewer products, factories would slow down, workers could lose their jobs, and the economy would begin shrinking. That's why the Federal Reserve aims for low, stable inflation instead of zero inflation. A small amount of inflation encourages people to spend, invest, and keep the economy moving. But sometimes inflation rises much faster than expected. During the COVID-19 pandemic, factories slowed down, supply chains were disrupted, and many everyday products became harder to find. At the same time, governments spent trillions of dollars to support families and businesses during the crisis. Those actions helped prevent a deeper economic collapse, but they also increased demand while supplies remained limited. The result was something millions of Americans experienced firsthand. Higher prices almost everywhere. Groceries became more expensive. Used cars became more expensive. Rent, travel, and everyday necessities all cost more than before. Here's where the invisible tax becomes real. Imagine getting a 5% raise at work. It feels like good news. But if the cost of living rises by 7% during the same year, your paycheck is bigger while your purchasing power is actually smaller. You're earning more dollars, but those dollars buy less. That's why many people feel richer on paper, but poorer in real life. So can you escape the invisible tax? Not completely, but you can protect yourself from it. Keeping money aside for emergencies is one of the smartest financial habits you can build. But for long-term goals, many people choose to own assets that have the potential to grow over time, such as diversified investments, businesses, or real estate. While every investment involves risk and there are no guarantees, the goal is simple. Give your money the opportunity to grow instead of slowly losing value. The biggest lesson isn't to stop saving. It's to understand the difference between saving and growing wealth. Cash is important for short-term security, but over long periods, inflation quietly reduces what idle cash can buy. That's why understanding how money works is often more valuable than simply earning more of it. So, let's go back to the question we started with. What if someone quietly took a small piece of your wealth every single year? You'd do everything you could to stop them. Inflation works differently. It doesn't take money out of your wallet. It slowly takes away your money's purchasing power. And because the change happens little by little, most people don't notice it until years later. The good news is that once you understand the invisible tax, you start making better financial decisions. Instead of asking, "How much money do I have?" you'll begin asking a much more powerful question. How much will my money be able to buy in the future? That single shift in thinking can completely change the way you save, invest, and build wealth. If you enjoyed this video and want more simple explanations of how money, markets, and the economy really work, subscribe to the channel, because once you understand the system, you're in a much better position to make it work for you, not against you.